Welcome to today's episode. If you've heard of Moringa but don't know how to use it, you're in the right place. We'll break down how to incorporate Moringa leaves, seeds, powder, and oil into your daily life.
Yeah, it's exciting to really get into the practical side of using moringa. It's been around, for centuries, revered in places like India and Africa, but it's really gaining popularity now in modern wellness.
Yeah, and for good reason. I mean, they don't call it the miracle tree for nothing. But I gotta say, I get a little overwhelmed with all the different forms. Where do we even start with all that?
Well, let's start with the foundation. Let's start with moringa leaves. Think of that as kind of your gateway to this plant's power. They're really surprisingly versatile.
Okay, so we talking like salads and smoothies, or is that too basic? I'm assuming people listening already know about that stuff.
You'd be surprised, even some of the most, I guess, seasoned moringa users, they don't always realize the nuances. So like fresh leaves, for instance, they have this kind of peppery kick that can add a lot of depth to things like soups or stews. And then dried leaves, those are great for tea. But did you know that how long you steep them drastically changes the flavor?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So 5 minutes, you get a real mild flavor. But if you let it go for 10 minutes, it gets much bolder and earthier, kind of like a good black tea.
Oh, that's a good tip. I usually just like chuck a teaspoon in there and just hope for the best.
Okay.
Speaking of tea, I tried some at a friend's house a while back, and it was awful. It was so bitter, like grassy. Any advice to avoid that?
Ah, yes. That infamous swamp water brew that some people end up with. Two things. One, water temperature matters. Don't use boiling water. Let it cool down a little bit. And second, the quality of the leaves can really vary. So you want to look for vibrant green dried leaves, not the dull or brownish ones. Those have lost a lot of their potency.
Okay, noted. So beyond tea, what are some ways to use the leaves that maybe aren't so obvious?
Well, here's where it gets interesting. In some cultures, they steam the leaves like spinach, which actually helps them retain more nutrients than boiling. And they're also ground into a paste for topical uses. Some say that can help with skin conditions, but, there's definitely more research needed on that front.
Interesting. Okay, so that's starting to sound less like health food and more like, I don't know, intriguing. What about the seeds? Those seem to be trending lately.
Moringa seeds, yeah, they're really fascinating. While the leaves are all about vitamins, the seeds, those are your protein and good fat source. So imagine, you have a little snack, it's slightly nutty, crunchy, but it's also good for your heart. That's moringa seeds.
I've seen recipes for like roasting them. Is that the best way to eat them?
Roasting definitely brings out more of the flavor. Think of it like a mild almond flavor. But you can also eat them raw, or you can even grind them into a powder. And actually, that powder, it's traditionally used as a water purifier in some regions.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It binds to impurities in the water, making it safer to drink.
Whoa. Seriously?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I've been adding the powder to my smoothies, but water purification, that's a whole other level.
It really speaks to moringa's long history of like practical uses. Now, smoothies are great and all, but don't underestimate the powder's versatility. Think beyond the usual. I've even seen it used as a natural food preservative.
Okay, now that is a game changer. I'm already picturing all kinds of like DIY projects. So we've got
Mm.
leaves, seeds, and this like magical powder. Anything else?
Well, we can't forget about moringa oil. It's extracted from the seeds, and this is like the beauty powerhouse of the moringa family. It's so rich in antioxidants and moisturizing agents. It's basically like nature's skincare and hair care miracle all in a bottle.
Oh, yeah. I have heard of using it for hair, but I didn't realize it was good for skin too. What are some of the ways to use it?
So you can use a few drops as a serum before you go to bed, and it can do wonders for dry skin. And some people even swear by it for wrinkles and blemishes. And then for hair, you can use it as a deep conditioning treatment, or you can even do a scalp massage with it to kind of promote growth and shine.
That's a lot of ground we've covered. I'm a little overwhelmed, but in a good way. Where do we go from here?
Well, you've got the basics down now. It's all about finding what works best for you. We've got a whole world of like moringa recipes and practices out there to explore, from traditional remedies to even like modern innovations.
Yeah, I'm ready for that deep dive.
Hmm.
But before we get there, any quick tips on like dosage or anything we should be careful about? I don't want listeners running out and eating handfuls of seeds or anything.
That's a great point. It's always best to start slow, especially with something new. And remember, this isn't a replacement for medical advice, so definitely consult your doctor if you have any concerns.
Solid advice. So are you ready to unpack some of these fascinating traditional uses? I'm dying to know more.
Oh, absolutely. Let's venture into the world of traditional Moringa wisdom. It's like opening a treasure chest of ancient health practices.
Okay, I'm all ears. What kind of treasures are we talking about here?
Well, for centuries, Moringa has been like a cornerstone of traditional medicine systems, particularly in South Asia and Africa. And it's been used for everything. I mean, everything from boosting milk supply and nursing mothers to soothing skin irritation.
Okay, that's pretty broad. Are we talking like leaves, seeds, oil,
Mm.
or all the above?
Yeah, it really depends on the specific application. For instance, like in Ayurveda, moringa is believed to balance all three doshas, making it a really versatile remedy. And they'll use the leaves in like teas and tonics for digestion, the seeds for inflammation, and then the oil for, skin and hair health.
I've actually heard about moringa being used for wound healing. Is there any truth to that?
Oh, yeah, that's a common one. The leaves are really rich in blood clotting agents, so traditionally they would grind them into a paste and apply it topically to help start bleeding and promote healing. There's some promising preliminary research on this, but more studies are definitely needed.
Wow, fascinating. So it's not just some like folk remedy.
Yeah,
There's actual science backing it up.
exactly. Modern science is really starting to catch up with a lot of this traditional wisdom. And now researchers are exploring moringa's potential for, managing blood sugar levels, reducing inflammation, and even protecting against certain types of cancer.
That's incredible. But I have to admit, I'm always a bit skeptical when it comes to like traditional remedies. How can we be sure they're safe and effective?
Yeah, that's a really valid point. It's so crucial to approach traditional knowledge with respect, but also, a critical eye. Not everything that's passed down through generations is scientifically proven, and there can be variations in practices and dosage.
So how do we navigate this? Should we just stick to the uses that have been scientifically validated?
Well, I think it's a balancing act. We can learn from traditional wisdom while also acknowledging its limitations. It's about, integrating these ancient practices with modern research to make informed decisions about our health.
That makes sense. So let's say I want to try incorporating some of these traditional moringa uses into my life. Where do I even begin?
Well, I'd say start by researching reputable sources that specialize in traditional medicine systems like Ayurveda or traditional African medicine, and look for practices that resonate with you, that align with your health goals.
And I'm guessing dosage is important too. Don't want to overdo it.
Absolutely. Traditional practices often have very specific dosage guidelines, but it's always wise to start with a small amount and see how your body responds. And as always, consult your doctor before making any major changes to your health routine, especially if you have any underlying conditions or are taking medication.
Solid advice. This has been so eye-opening. I feel like I've barely scratched the surface of moringa's potential.
Oh, there's always more to learn. Moringa is such a fascinating plant with such a rich history and a really promising future. And I encourage everyone to keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep discovering the wonders of this miracle tree.
I'm definitely inspired to do just that. But before we get too carried away with all the possibilities, I think it's time to bring things back down to earth and talk about how to actually integrate moringa into our daily lives.
Yeah, you're right. Let's translate this knowledge into action.
We've talked about all the amazing benefits and traditional uses, but I'm curious, what are some simple, practical ways that our listeners can start incorporating moringa into their everyday routine?
Well, first you got to choose your moringa adventure. Do you want to start with the leaves, the seeds, the powder, the oil? Each form has its own unique benefits and applications.
Okay, so let's break it down, starting with the leaves. What are some easy ways to enjoy those?
If you're a tea lover, moringa leaf tea is a great place to start. It's a super simple way to, experience the flavor and reap the nutritional benefits. Just remember those steeping tips we discussed earlier.
Right. Avoid the swamp water scenario at all costs. What about for those who aren't into tea?
Well, fresh moringa leaves can be added to salads, for that little peppery kick, or wilted like spinach as a nutritious side dish. And don't underestimate the power of a simple smoothie. Blend a handful of fresh or dried leaves into your favorite recipe for a boost of vitamins and antioxidants.
Sounds delicious.
Oh,
Now on to the seeds. I have to admit, I'm intrigued by those water purification properties we talked about. Is that something people can do at home?
while the seed powder is traditionally used for water purification in certain communities, it's a bit more complex of a process than just sprinkling some in your glass of water. It requires specific techniques and precautions.
Good to know. So what are some more practical ways to use the seeds?
Roasted moringa seeds make a great snack. Similar to almonds or other nuts, they're a good source of protein and healthy fats, making them a really satisfying and nutritious option.
Okay, I'm adding this to my grocery list. Now, what about the powder? It seems like the most versatile form.
It really is. You can add a teaspoon or two to smoothies, soups, stews, even yogurt or oatmeal. It blends in really easily and has a mild, slightly earthy flavor that complements a variety of dishes.
I've also seen recipes for moringa energy balls and even moringa pancakes.
Exactly. Get creative in the kitchen and experiment with different ways to incorporate the powder into your meals and snacks. It's a sneaky way to boost your nutrient intake without sacrificing flavor.
I love that. And last but not least, moringa oil. I'm excited to try this one out for my hair and skin.
Yeah, it's a true beauty elixir. For a simple hair treatment, just massage a few drops into your scalp and hair, leave it on for, say, 30 minutes, then shampoo as usual. For skin, you can use it as a moisturizer, add a few drops to your bath, or even mix it with your favorite lotion for an extra boost of hydration.
This is all fantastic information. I feel like I have a whole arsenal of moringa tools now. But before we send our listeners off on their moringa adventures, any final words of wisdom?
Yeah. Embrace the journey. Don't be afraid to experiment. Find what works for you. And most importantly, enjoy the process of incorporating this, incredible plant into your life.
Great advice. I'm feeling inspired and ready to embrace the power of moringa. But I have one final thought-provoking question for our listeners to ponder as we wrap up this deep dive. We've explored moringa's incredible benefits, its traditional uses, and even how to incorporate it into our daily lives. But, it makes me wonder, can this miracle tree, can it do more than just improve our own personal well-being? Can it play a role in addressing some of the global challenges we face today?
Oh, that's such a great question. It reminds us that something, as simple as a plant can have a ripple effect far beyond our own, individual lives.
For example, I've heard about moringa being used to combat malnutrition in developing countries. Is there any truth to that?
Absolutely. Moringa it's packed with so many essential nutrients, making it an incredibly valuable food source, especially in regions where access to nutritious food is limited. And there are organizations that are working to introduce moringa into these communities to help combat malnutrition, particularly in children.
That's amazing. It's like nature's own, like, multivitamin.
Yeah.
Are there any other ways moringa is being used to, like, make a positive impact on a larger scale?
Moringa is also gaining a lot of attention for its potential in sustainable agriculture and environmental conservation. It's a really drought-resistant crop, and it can grow in some pretty harsh conditions, which makes it, ideal for areas that are facing water scarcity.
So it's not just about the nutrients, it's about resilience too.
Exactly. It's a sustainable crop that can really help improve food security and livelihoods in, vulnerable communities. And some organizations are even exploring its use in reforestation efforts and soil rehabilitation.
Wow. The possibilities seem endless. It's inspiring to think that something as simple as incorporating moringa into our own lives could contribute to, a healthier, more sustainable world.
Yeah, it all comes back to the interconnectedness of everything, right? Our personal well-being is intertwined with the health of the planet and the well-being of others.
This deep dive has been a real eye-opener. I started out just wanting to know how to use moringa, and now I'm seeing it in a whole new light.
That's the beauty of exploring, natural remedies with an open mind. There's always more to discover, and often those discoveries extend, far beyond our initial expectations.
And for our listeners who are just as excited about moringa as we are, we encourage you to keep learning, keep experimenting, and share your own discoveries with the world. Who knows, you might just stumble upon the next big moringa breakthrough.
That's what we love to see. Passion, curiosity, and a willingness to explore. Those are the ingredients for making a real difference.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave you with one final thought to ponder. As you embark on your own moringa journey, ask yourself, how can you use this newfound knowledge to not only benefit yourself, but also contribute to a healthier and more sustainable future for all?
It's a question worth reflecting on.
And until next time, keep diving deep.